Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Resident Rule Breakers. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Camille.
And today's podcast, we're going to be going back to season 2, episode 1, which is called 004230. And it was directed by Rob Korn. And it was written by Elizabeth Clavitter and Todd Hartman. This episode is obviously the season 2 premiere. And there's obviously things they're trying to wrap up from season 1, like Lane Hunter, and there's a lot of other things in there. So
yeah, what's his name? Patrick Walker. I forgot
that. Yeah, Micah. Which when the first moment I saw was like, oh, I forgot about Micah.
I know. It was like Micah.
Like I always bring up Conic because this is one of the really first episodes. They didn't get back together till episode 10 of season 1, or episode 9 of season 1. So they're very fresh and new, and they still haven't gone through all their issues at this point. But the shower scene in this episode is one of the most talked about steamy scenes.
Oh my god. When I was 13, I remember the car scene in Titanic. And I was, at the time, although it was a hand, all it was a hand. It was very steamy and it was very hot. Yeah, now we got a full-on shower scene.
On primetime TV. Just 20 years ago, that would have never happened, okay?
Oh my god. I wonder what Matt and Emily were thinking filming that episode.
But yeah, Conrad and Rick sneak into, at that point in time, the chief residence office and use shower to have shower sex while on duty. And fortunately for Conrad, he gets paged before they can finish it. And but let's just say that it's pretty steamy. And so there's Conrad and Nick, there's a connection there. But so yeah, for the Conic fans, they definitely fulfilled the steaminess quota for that episode. There's a blackout in the hospital, and you think it's the thunderstorm because we have some nasty thunderstorms in the south. Okay, the thunderstorms we get down here are especially in between March and September, spawn tornadoes quite frequently. We're like a minor tornado alley down here, and so yeah, the thunderstorms they showed it's very realistic. And it could knock a hospital off its power grid. Yeah. And they were trying to point out the generators and but the fact is it wasn't the thunderstorm that knocked it out.
No, they had a little hacker in the hospital.
Yeah. Well, she wasn't intending to damage the entire hospital, but she did.
What did she do? I mean, why did she do it?
She was trying to wipe out the billing department, and she ended up wiping out the power grid on the entire hospital.
They had a whole they were running patients around, case they have had patients in the ICUs on life support, the ER, the ORs, etc. are all full. AJ and Minna are in the middle of a heart surgery with a little newborn baby. All of these things is going
newborn baby, but a newborn preemie baby. She's tiny.
I know. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, the power is out, limited generator electricity is going on. They had to evacuate the hospital because there were too many patients and too little power or whatever. And it's good Lord, that girl, did Belle want to sue the girl? Because seriously, I'd have been so mad because that's a lot of imagine if someone had actually died.
Exactly. Like that poor little innocent baby who they were just trying to fix her heart. And what if she'd actually died because there was
Or
no.
any of the patients who were at the hospital.
Yeah.
It wasn't even just the baby.
But yeah, any other patients who were on life support or,
The guy came in with what was it? Did he have like a stab wound or something?
Yeah, it was like a stab wound or something like that. And
Yeah,
they weren't even supposed to admit him. And Conrad was like, no, he's gonna die if they try to transmit him to another hospital. And he made a makeshift
OR.
Because they're still trying to show Conrad's military background at this point and how tough he is. So, but yeah, and the thing about him cutting and then Nolan taking the blame for it, that comes back on Conrad later on. And then there's the Irving and Jessica getting trapped in the elevator.
That was
I think that's like the first hint that they were going to do anything with Irving and Jessica at all.
Oh my God, that was too funny. Like that girl, I literally was so mad. And Nick was also mad. I mean, Nick wanted to call the cops or something on the girl because, like I said, she put so many lives in danger. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
She put herself in danger. But she didn't give a crap. I hope that she got some kind of punishment for it.
And here's the thing, like, I understand that you're frustrated with hospital bills. Believe me, I get it. But the fact is, hospitals do have systems in place for people who are low income who can get help and stuff. So that should have been something that should have been offered to her or mentioned to her in some form of some fashion.
Or her sister or something.
Long ago. And but that the way she took it was not the option. But the other thing was her sister said something to Nick about her just being a nurse. Nick's not just a nurse. She's a nurse practitioner and she does pretty much anything a doctor can do.
I like her line where she said, I like her line where she said, I'm a nurse practitioner. I can do everything that a doctor can do with the better bed or whatever. But yeah, you guys, seriously though, everybody listening, y'all need to respect nurses. This is doctors. They're not I've seen people say they're medical school dropouts. I'm like, no, bitch, they're not.
A lot of times people will blatantly go to school just to be a nurse. I know the school.
Almost everybody who's a nurse
has a whole department just for nursing to train nurses.
That's why they have nursing school. There's an actual school of nursing. These are not people who are dropouts of medical school. They're actual people who went to school for nursing. And all these things, y'all need to seriously stop fucking acting like nurses are just, I don't know, doctor assistants or something like that. I don't know. Because here's the thing.
Nurses do so much stuff.
If anything, this TV show has shown that nurses actually know more than doctors.
Yes.
I mean, remember when the Nitra's character, Nurse Hundley, her wires were out of place or whatever? She had to tell the doctors while she was having problems breathing where to put the wires together. Because they couldn't figure it out themselves, and they're the doctors. A fucking dying nurse had to tell them how to do it.
Exactly.
So let's stop this degrading, this downplaying, this whatever's of roles of nurses. It is horrible. It is sad. I follow a couple of nurse practitioners on TikTok, and a lot of commenters fucking disrespecting their professionalism, and I'm sitting there going how dare you? try and be a nurse and you tell me how easy it is. You know what I mean? It's like, ugh.
Like, because like within the past couple weeks, obviously I've been really sick and I'm way better, but like obviously I get frustrated too. I was so frustrated when I was in the emergency room. I wanted to scream because I wasn't so much, but like I admire the nurses for putting up with that crap. There's so many people who don't understand. Like
doctors only come for like some doctors only come for like 5 minutes, for 5-10 minutes. You know what I mean? To do the paperwork, see how you're doing or whatever. The nurses stay so that they can give out the info, pass on the information to the doctors and stuff. You know what I mean? So stop acting like nurses are, I don't know, doctor assistants or whatever. They're not just there. Without nurses, you'd be dead.
Yes, exactly. So I have a lot of respect for them, not just because of this show, but just in general, because I've witnessed it not only personally, but like with my grandma. They were the ones that were caring for her while she was in the nursing home. They fed her, they cleaned her up, they did everything for her, they gave her meds. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for them. And so yeah, don't just say that Nick is just a nurse. She's not. So that's one of my rants, but I'm glad they addressed it in the show. The babies, the AJ and Mina story where they took care of the baby, like AJ's like, he knew like the hospital generator probably wasn't going to last it, whatever it was. And they're in there manually pumping this baby's heart just so they can save her. And it's amazing. Like, I just was, wow. It's just a powerful storyline. But the dad of that baby had an allergic reaction, and Devin finally realized what it was. Well, before they were going to transport him because they thought he was having blood pressure, stroke. So it shows how good of a doctor Devin is to notice the rash and realize all he needed was an EpiPen. To be in that type of pressure where he's worried about his baby and his wife and all those other things, like, yeah, it's hard. But Devin came through and actually carried him up down a couple flights of stairs. And then there's the Micah stuff, Micah and Mina, because Micah's still in the hospital from having a checkup on his heart, and Mina's worried about him because he's in the ICU with the power outage and everything. At this point in time, AJ is just teasing her about it. He's like letting it happen. He's like, just check on him for Mina so she can get back to the surgery. Yeah, and in the end, he bought her flowers. Micah bought flowers. So
I like Mina and Micah, but when they were together, I liked them. I honestly feel like he brought her softness out, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think Micah toned down Mina enough to where she was human.
Yeah.
And it allowed Mina and AJ's relationship to blossom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but now I'm wondering if like they're gonna bring back Patrick, since they're bringing up her past with him, this season. Yeah. I wonder if they're gonna do that too. But so yeah, it's a jam-packed episode. It's a premiere, so obviously it's going to be. They're setting up so many storylines that they had to play out. And then of course, Marshall wasn't in the episode, but Glenn Morshower was credited as a main cast member in season 2, and he's mentioned at the end of the episode trying to get in touch with Belle.
because he's the chairman of the board, and Belle's ignoring him. So
I realized that Belle has a different assistant in this episode.
yeah, no Grayson yet.
I know.
And he fired his assistant like at the end of the episode. So not only did he fire his assistant, he fired he fired the IT guy.
Yeah, the IT guy. The guy who had to tell him that it was like a hacker or whatever.
Yep. He's like, how could you let this happen? We're a hospital, you know.
Where a teenager is able to hack the computer system.
So that's really all. Like, and other than the Lane Hunter and like Belle is what they're showing throughout the episode is on TV. They're showing that Lane has been arrested and she has a murder charge on her. Yep. And she's got some fraud for Medicare fraud or whatever. And Belle's trying to deal with this because he's like, apparently he was in love with her, which is gross. The Belle of this episode is a long shot from the Belle that we are currently getting. You know, it's gone through so much in 2 years. It's ridiculous. Yep. And so this Belle is trying to deal with the moral implication of doing the right thing versus his heart. And so there was that part too. That's really all about that episode. It really is a premiere episode, and it really, what premieres do, obviously they have to have big moments and everything. Yeah. But it's this particular one really just set up the season, in my opinion. So you wanted to talk about what happened in Atlanta this past week.
I feel like every other week we have something to say about something that happened.
I know, but in this case, one, not only are you of Asian descent yourself, this happened in Atlanta where they taped the show. The moment I saw that news story, when I turned on the news that morning, I was speechless. And I sat there going, well, they can say whatever they want to say, but it's wrong, because how can they say this isn't a hate crime when the majority of the people who were killed were of Asian descent?
The cop pissed me off more than anything. He excused the murder as having a bad day.
Okay, first off, you don't murder when you have a bad day.
Normal people.
You go buy a pint of ice cream and cry yourself to sleep.
Go watch Netflix. Read a book. Don't go buy a gun, then 90 minutes later, shoot up 3 Asian-owned spas and kill 8 people. And it wasn't even like they were 3 spas close to each other. There were 3 spas spread out in Atlanta.
Well, no, 2 of them were across the street from each other. The other one, however, was not close by.
Yeah. So he went and searched these out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was premeditated.
Where this happened, it happened relatively close to where some of the actors that work on this show live.
Yeah. Conrad Ricamora, he is an Southeast, I don't know what country his family is from, but he's Asian. And he posted something on his Instagram, and I want to read it. Hold on. To show you guys the fear some of the Asians are feeling right now. I was on set in Atlanta when I tweeted a few words of support the morning after the killings happened, mentioning that I am an Asian American living in Atlanta. But when I was sitting on set, more information was coming in, and I realized that the murders happened 2 miles from where I was still living. So I deleted it from Twitter because I didn't feel safe. I was going to wait a day to drive back up north after Iraq this week because there were tornado warnings around Atlanta. But then the attacks happened at 3 Asian American-owned businesses nearby, and 6 Asian women were killed. I filmed my last scene, packed up my car and my dog, and drove through the storms. Before the drive up, I stopped for fuel and happened to read that the deputy who made the statement that the killer just had a bad day had also been posting anti-Asian messages for the last year. Halfway through my drive, I realized I was hiding my Asian American face when other cars would pass me. And when I stopped for gas, I wore a hat and kept my head down so no one would see my Asian American eyes. I drove 13 hours straight and finally got home. And after months of waiting to get back home to open it, I finally got to open a package from the Recording Academy. A medal for being a Grammy nominee for musical I did about David Henry Wang getting stabbed in the neck and almost bleeding to death for being Asian American. So yeah, proud Asians are now hiding that they're Asian for fear.
Yeah. See, for those of you saying, why are you talking about this? It doesn't matter with this. It doesn't have anything to do with the show. It personally affected an actor who's on the show, who's of Asian American descent. And it's in Atlanta where they film. So yes, it does affect the show. And when he's talking about those thunderstorms, they were horrible. They came through here too. We had tornado warnings. So for him to drive through a storm like that, just so he could hide, it's horrible. Because I had to actually go and leave my house to go take shelter with my parent. It's so sad that he thinks he has to hide just because he doesn't want people to attack him. And the network themselves has come out in support of the Asian community. So they've posted a statement, and the actors, Manish, Emily, I've seen most of them post support. So please understand that it does affect the show if it affects the actors.
You can't be a fan of any show and not worry about the safety of the actors. Like, there wouldn't be a show if there wasn't actors. So if you're sitting here complaining about why they're talking about it, or why I posted what Conrad put on his Instagram, then you can't claim to be a fan of the show, because here's a guy who's working on the show and he's expressing his fear today. And you're sitting here saying, well, this has nothing to do with the show. Well, then what the fuck have you been watching? He's on the show.
So we want to address the topic. Because as you can tell, it affected actors, it's affected Camille. It's made me brutally pissed off. And I can't believe there are so many people, like, seriously, after World War II, they put Japanese Americans, people who were born right here in the United States, in internment camps because they were so afraid they were spies. You need to learn from your history and not let it repeat itself. So just pointing it out, and believe me, I'm a history buff, so I when I say I understand this stuff, I do. Take a look at what you think and say. New topic. Just want to remind you guys that Emily's new show, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, has premiered on Disney Plus. The first episode is there. She is not in it. I have seen it. But she will appear in later episodes. So if you are an Emily Van Camp fan and need something to watch while the show's in hiatus, you can go watch that, especially if you love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So there's that. But she will be appearing very shortly. So just a reminder for all the Emily fans. So that's really all we have for this podcast. Just reminder, be nice to everybody. Think about what you say, post, do. Because it affects more than just you, I can promise you. You might just lose your job over it. People do watch and pay attention. Next week's podcast is going to be about 202. It's called The Prince and the Pauper. It's the first episode that Marshall's actually in season 2. It's talks about
Isn't this the one with the
it talks
patients
about
with diabetes?
the insulin crisis of America.
Yeah, the one with the diabetes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's that episode, and so I actually really do like that one. So we'll be doing that.
The poor kid broke my heart in that episode. God.
And of course, the following week behind that, we've already done 2-3, which was the flashback episode for Conic. 2-4, which is About Time, which is the episode that has Toxade in it from Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
And then the next week behind that, before the show comes back on the air, we'll do 2-5, which is The Germ. And The Germ is the one with Jasper and Henry Barnett. It's their first episode.
The one with Conrad being a cop.
Yeah, the one with Conrad being a cop.
Yeah, that's what everyone remembers about that episode. They don't remember the kids, they remember Conrad being a cop.
But and then on April 13th, the show will return with 4-9, and we don't have any information on it yet because it's too far out. And just note that the hiatus is because they are still filming due to COVID restrictions and everything else. And so there's a reason why they delayed it. And
Based on the timing of Conrad's post, I would assume this last episode is like the 11th or 12th.
Yeah, it has to be because they were on 10 when the hiatus started.
Yeah, 11th or 12th. I wonder if he'll come back, or wonder how that storyline would end. And if he leaves that early in the season, then we won't really have the backstory that we hope we would be getting with Belle and him.
We'll see what they're gonna do. So I just wanted to bring all that up, that we're going back to season 2 until the show returns.
Yeah.
We have a Patreon account, and if you want to sponsor us or help us keep the podcast running, it's as little as $1 a month, and it's patreon.com/resident podcast, and the money stays in the podcast, I guess, mainly to help pay for hosting and other things to help it, keep running. And then of course you can contact us. We have our email, which is theresidentrulebreakers@gmail.com. Yeah, we have our Facebook page, which is the Resident Rule Breakers Podcast. There's a Facebook group, which we mention quite frequently, and it's connected to the Facebook page. It says join group. So if you're already in there, thank you. Just continue to be kind and polite to everyone. Don't be rude, and stuff like that. If you're not, there's questions, please answer them. You'll be denied. And then there's our Instagram, which is @TheResident Podcast. Camille's is @TheResident on Fox Fans, and mine is @KBCountry37. I do apologize for the lack of posting because honestly, I don't want people seeing me in the condition I've currently I've been in for a while. So that's just me saying that. And
If you
then
guys want to follow me, on TikTok, I am cbonus1212. I've been posting a lot about the Asian hate crimes too. So, I can't voice everything that I want to voice on here because it would probably be a 1 hour long podcast if I do. But yeah, don't follow me there. It's a lot.
Yeah. I do not have TikTok. I don't plan on getting a TikTok, but you can follow her. You can listen to us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, and our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So next week we'll be talking about 202, the Prince and the Pauper. So until then, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Camille.
Bye,
Adios.
guys.